In this video, I will explain why we celebrate Christmas on December 25th. Now, the Gospels discuss the birth of Jesus in two places, at the beginning of the Gospel of Luke and also at the beginning of the Gospel of Matthew, but neither Gospel writer tells us when Jesus was born. So around 200 AD, an Egyptian Christian named Clement of Alexandria, he writes that the Egyptians were overly curious as to when Jesus was born, and many people speculated. He gives 4 dates as examples, but interestingly enough, December 25th was not one of the 4 dates. In 221 AD, there was a book written by Sextus Julius Africanus. It was a history of the world, and he gives the date that Mary became pregnant with Jesus as the spring equinox. Now, for the Romans, the spring equinox was on March 25th, and so that would mean that Jesus was born around December 25th. Now, in 274, the emperor was named Aurelian, and he worshipped a god named Sol Invictus. So, on December 25th, 274, they had a holiday to Sol Invictus, and this, of course, would have been celebrated at the same time as Christmas. Now, in 336, in Rome, there was apparently a celebration of the birth of Jesus. We know this from a document called the Philokaalian calendar, which recorded the various dates that were important to people living in Rome at this time. Now, in the late 4th century, about 50 years later, there was a famous preacher named Augustine of Hippo, and he gave a sermon which said that Jesus was born on the solstice, so that every day after he was born, the day would get longer and longer. Okay. One might ask, if Christmas is a solstice holiday, why is it on December 25th when the actual day of the solstice is December 21st? Now, the short answer to that question is calendar drift. You see, the Julian calendar has one leap day every 4 years, and thus the average the average year is 365 days and a quarter. Now, but the problem is that the solar year is slightly less than that by 3 days every 400 years. And so the Julian calendar was introduced by Julius Caesar in 45 BC. And the calendar was designed by Sosigenes of Alexandria. And this calendar was used until 1582, when Gregory XIII noticed that the date of Easter was 10 days out of alignment compared to the seasons. You see, because every 400 years since Julius Caesar's time, the calendar had moved another 3 days out of alignment. So he decided to correct this, created a new calendar called the Gregorian calendar, and this calendar returned the alignment to what it had been at the time of the Council of Nicaea, which was in 325 AD. Now, why at that time? Well, because this council, it decided when Easter would be, and so since the main reason for the calendar shift from the church's point of view was to correct the date of Easter, he therefore went to the last time that the church considered the Easter problem. Now, in America, we continued to use the Julian calendar until 1752, and then the American colonies, the British colonies in America, they switched from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar. And this means that there are some people in American history, like George Washington, who was born under the Julian calendar and lived, and then became well known in the Gregorian calendar times. And thus they lost 10 days of their lives because of the calendar shift. Now, nowadays, there are still a few people who use the Julian calendar, namely the Orthodox churches. I think it's pretty much just for church usage, but it's still used to calculate the date of Christmas in both Russia and Ukraine. And under the Julian calendar, Christmas is January 7th in Gregorian dates, and this means that the Julian calendar is now 13 days out of alignment, which is to say there's been 13 days of calendar drift.